to launch a move that would catapult women into positions of decision-making and also deal with challenges such as poverty and ignorance, among others. This move is what many refer to as affirmative action, and it is this that has seen women in Uganda holding powerful positions, including that of the Vice Presidency, Speakership of Parliament, Members of Parliament, and district leaders. Today, women hold 33% of all seats in the Ugandan Parliament, a considerable share of cabinet positions, and a thorough scrutiny of the education system shows women are now graduating more than men, largely because of the extra 1.5 points awarded as a female applies to join a public university. Women are also enjoying benefits of positive legislation, and right now Parliament is debating the Marriage Act, and there are demands to have other pieces of legislation, including the Sexual Offences Bill, among others. Some people have argued that women have now been emancipated and that time has come to invoke the Constitution, which provides for the review of representation and consider the end of affirmative action. Others argue that even those women who have become successful through the affirmative action ticket have forgotten the ideals of the women empowerment movement, and as such there is a big disconnect between such women and those that they claim to speak for. So as we prepare to commemorate the Women's Day next Friday, we explore the possibility of reviewing the affirmative action policy and consider its benefits and challenges as women continue to seek. For more space, our guests tonight, Hon Sylivia Sylivia Namabidde, Mityana District Woman Mp, Chairperson of the Network of African Women Ministers and Parliamentarians, also Chairperson of the Committee on Education. You're most welcome, Honorable Sylvia.
Thank you very much, Edmond, and good evening, listeners.
We're also joined by Ms. Perry Aritua, Executive Director of the Women Democracy Network Uganda chapter. You're most welcome, Ms. Aritua.
Thank you, Edmond, and good evening, listeners.
We're also joined on the line by Mr. Stephen Langa, Executive Director of the Family Life Network. He'll talk to us on the phone. Honorable Ssinabulya, should affirmative action be reviewed?
Thank you very much, Edmond. Yes, like any policies and any legislation, piece of legislation, after some given period of time, there's need to look at it and see, has this policy or law achieved the objectives for which it was set to achieve. So I think time has come for us to look at affirmative action and see, did it achieve the objectives? If it achieved it, do we still need it? If it didn't achieve it, how best can we improve it? Because the purpose of affirmative action was to ensure that women get opportunities, equal opportunities as men. Because for a long time, women had been marginalized socially, economically, politically, and women had missed out on so many benefits as a result of this marginalization. So it was an attempt it was positive discrimination to ensure that women are given a push where they had been left behind and where they had been marginalized. So we can do an evaluation and take stock and say, okay, what have we achieved in terms of economic emancipation, in terms of political emancipation, in terms of social transformation, in terms of cultural attitudes. Do we still need this policy, or should we leave it?
Well, talk to us. How far has this affirmative action achieved its objective?
Well, it has achieved some objectives. If I could look at the different aspects of affirmative action, if I can begin with the political, because many times people usually think about, when we talk about affirmative action, the first thing they talk about is politics. Let me also begin with the politics. We've had an increase in political representation of women in different legislatures, beginning from the national legislature, parliament, the district legislature, those are the councils and the sub-county councils. At least we have quotas which are specified by law, and these are occupied by women. And it just does not end at physical representation, but we are seeing women increasingly achieving the objective for which they were set to, because it's not just about having the numbers, but women were put there to occupy those spaces, but also to articulate the issues that are important to women, issues that can transform the lives of women. So when you have women in parliament, we've seen women in parliament legislating for change to improve the economic social status of women. We've seen women coming out strongly when we have bills and laws and budgets that affect women, trying to argue, and you find women are pushing hard in areas of health, because this is a very important area. It's a very important sector as far as women are concerned. Women are the caregivers, women are the mothers, when they also become pregnant, they are the ones who suffer maternal death. So we've seen women coming out strongly to make health visible on the legislative agenda. Issues to do with education, issues to do with women's rights, property rights, the current law on marriage and divorce, which is before parliament, where women have taken it up as a women's issue, and you've seen women strongly urging the case of women. So if we didn't have many women in parliament who have come through the affirmative action seat to enable us to have a third, it's very difficult. Matters you can ignore us, but we form a formidable force. 30% of parliament.
That's a big.
It matters we're not the majority, but you cannot ignore us. You cannot ignore us. So there, in that area, I think affirmative action as a team, both in numbers but also in output. And then you can also talk about affirmative action in education.
Right.
We've seen the increase of girls in universities.
Okay, we'll probably talk about that as a specific segment, education. Let's come to Perry. Talk to us about your own views. Has it finally arrived? We should close it and do other things. Affirmative action.
Thank you. It hasn't yet achieved all its objectives.
Not yet, Uhuru.
Yes, I would like to agree with Honorable Sylvia on a number of issues, because if you look at Parliament, if there was no affirmative action in this Parliament, we would have 8 women on the directly elected seat. When you look at local councils, many of them are now at a third. So you find at least there's a voice for that 50% of this population, because it's a reality that if representation does not reflect the composition of society, then we have a problem. So it's true, there's need for review, just like any other law, just like any other policy, to take stock of where the country has achieved, but also to deal with areas where there are still gaps. Because right now there are still gaps when it comes to affirmative action.
Which are those gaps? Talk to us.
Because we are most times when people talk of affirmative action, they're looking at politics, but we also need to focus on public service, in corporate governance. How many women actually hold those positions? Because when you look at countries like Norway, they have introduced affirmative action in corporate governance. In most of these countries in the Scandinavian section of this world, you find they have policies which say that no sex shall occupy more than 60% of the seats in corporate governance. So you find it's really an impetus to get more women to get into those positions, because one of the things we should just continue to realize is that cultural and structural barriers take time, to be broken. It takes time for society to change certain attitudes. So it would be important for us to take stock and see how far have we gone in terms of attitude change. How far have we gone in terms of structural change? Because when you talk of structural change, especially in politics, let's look at political parties and take stock.
Yes.
Because that is the avenue through which both men and women get elected.
Right.
How many women occupy those positions of leadership in the political parties? What are the challenges that they continue to face? Once we take stock of the different aspects of where affirmative action has been introduced, then we can be able to say, in this area there's a gap, this is what we need to do.
Right. How about Sylvia? Let's talk about the gaps. You were talking about education. Yeah. Specifically, how has it helped? The 1.5 points at the university level.
Yes. When the provision of the additional 1.5 points was given, it has enabled more girls to access university education. When you look at the history, we begin with Makerere, because for a long that time it was Makerere was the only university in this country. The percentage of girls to boys entering university was so small. Even before affirmative action, I even remember during our days in the the late 80s, we were very, very few girls. You'd find that in my district, I think by then it was Mubende, and by then it was Mubende, Kiboga, Mityana, Kyankwas, all those districts was Mubende. We could have been maybe 2 or 3 girls who graduated that year against the Mubende district. Yes, so you can imagine. And I think then it was by then it was a big achievement. The affirmative action, that 1.5 points which are added on to girls, enabled an increasing number of girls to join the university, just because of that special addition. And today we talk about a number of girls. Maybe there's something like 45% of admissions to public universities are girls, and this is tremendous. And it is because of this 1.5 point addition, but also other big programs like UPE, like USE, which also I remember initially it was when UPE was introduced, it was 2 girls, 2 boys. There was nothing like 4 boys in a family. If you had children, you had to choose. Make sure at least 2 of them has to be girls. So all these opportunities have enabled girls to access education in large numbers.
This is Spectrum. Listeners on Radio 1 tonight. Is affirmative action still relevant in empowering women in Uganda? Our guests, Hon Sylivia Sylivia Namabidde, Mityana District Woman Mp, Chairperson of the Network of African Women Ministers and Parliamentarians, also Chairperson of the Committee on Education. Ms. Perry Aritua, Executive Director of Women Democracy Network-Uganda Chapter. We expect to be joined on the line by Mr. Stephen Langa, Executive Director of the Family Life Network. He will be talking to us in a short while. Perry, can you talk to us a little bit about Women Democracy Network? Some people think we have a plethora of these women affirmative action groups. Talk to us specifically about yours. It's a brand new group. Talk to us about it.
All right, thank you, Edmond. Women's Democracy Network, Uganda chapter, which in short we call WDN, is currently partnering with 4 other women organizations under what we call the Women's Democracy Group. The other 4 organizations include Action for Development, Forum for Women in Democracy, Center for Women in Governance, and Uganda Women's Network. Now, one of the unique things that WDN brings on board is introducing women to using social media to enhance leadership.
Facebook.
Yes, Facebook, blogs, and email, because it has to start with basic, open an email address, use it to find out what your fellow women in other districts are doing, just go to Google and search if there's a bill coming up for mention in council. Can you get facts so that when you stand up to speak in council, you're speaking from an informed perspective and you're convincing? So basically we are trying to fill that gap by saying let us add value to the women's movement by introducing the women councillors, especially who have very limited access to ICT and other forms of communication, to using these tools to enhance their leadership.
Now have you found your work, teaching women to use computers and to Facebook and to Twitter?
Of course it's difficult because, most of the women councillors especially have a very low level of education. The literacy levels are still very high.
Literacy levels are high.
Yes, some cannot read, it's basic documents. So it becomes a challenge when you're now introducing ICT. I mean, before even you teach the person how to read and write, you're introducing ICT. So we're saying, look, let us encourage them to form caucuses, because WOPA has worked quite well in terms of parliament. Let's help them to form a caucus as the Women's Democracy Group, which comprises of 5 organizations. And those who at least have some basic skills can then work with those who do not have those skills, so that women have, start becoming a formidable force, especially in decision making in local councils.
Well, we're joined right now by Mr. Stephen Langa, Executive Director of the Family Life Network. You're most welcome, Mr. Stephen Langa.
Thank you very much.
Can you talk to us about affirmative action? Is it something we needed in the beginning, or did we make a mistake? location? All right. This time that's Mr. Stephen Langa. Let's get back briefly to the studio. Honorable Sylvia, some people think you have large numbers, but many women can still not assert themselves, and they think you're used as political capital by the politicians. We freed the women. We freed the women. Vote us in power this time. Vote us in power next time.
I think we upload the powers that started this affirmative action, because it was a proper step in the right direction. We must give credit where it is due, but at the same time, it should not be something which people should use to say, okay, it's not enough. It's not enough to bring women in power, but we must also genuinely support them. You should not stop at having women elected to parliament, but we need to see many women taking up very powerful ministries as well. When we had
defense, you had the Vice of State for
Defense, Vice President, now Speaker of Parliament. We want to see women in the judiciary. We want to see women not only in politics but in all spheres. It's not enough to put them there, but they must be supported, and they must even be facilitated to play the role. You enable them to be. So if I'm a member of Parliament, how are women members of Parliament facilitated to play that role of member of Parliament?
They've given you a nursery place now. Babies can sit there and wait for their mommies.
I upload the Speaker of Parliament, who has seriously moved.
That's powerful.
It's a powerful because Parliament recognizes that women have multiple roles. They must fulfill their biological functions and responsibilities. They must have. They have children. But many women in Parliament now are young. They're under 30, under 35, and they're in the productive age.
One of them is 19. She could very easily be my
Yes. So to enable her to effectively legislate without getting worried about the baby she left back home, have a nursery. That's one way of supporting women to fulfill their responsibilities, and it's a welcome move. But what I was saying is that we must not just say, okay, we enabled women to be in politics and you end there. How are you supporting them to fulfill this mandate?
Let's talk about fulfilling the mandate. Let's pause that a little bit. Let's talk about aiming higher. Some people think you have arrived, some people think you should aim higher. For instance, we should have a president.
Yeah,
I think we should have a woman president next time.
Definitely, if there's a woman
2016
who can
who
can stand and articulate her issues so well, there's no reason why she can't be president. I have the belief that we have women in Uganda who can ably lead this country. Not even better. Yes. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces.
Commander to State House.
Yes. Because really, it's I know of course there are so many barriers which a woman would face as a president, because you just look at small areas like districts. We have 112 districts in Uganda, but because there's no affirmative action, there are only 3 women out of the 112 chairpersons.
Yes. This is a chairperson.
This is a chairperson. There are only 3, and I'm glad one of them is my chairperson in Mityana. She's a woman. But so women are able. But the society looks at you as a woman. So when you say I'm going to stand on what they call direct It has even lost the meaning because today all elections are direct because we're not elected through electoral colleges. We are elected by adult suffrage, even in a big constituency. So what I was saying is that when a woman stands with a man in a county, in a constituency, after the presidency, there will be so many questions.
Even women question that.
Even for women, women can say, how can a woman lead me as a president? You know, so between a woman and a man, people may look at other issues.
But if it's
a woman and a man, they begin by saying, but can a woman manage? You know, someone quickly a shadow of doubt is cast in people's mind. A woman, like you said, can she command the army? Can she, someone look at her?
For instance, let's just use that as an example.
I think she can. I think Rebecca has probably steered the 9th Parliament. I think a lot of accolades have gone to her. Of course, with so many challenges because she's managing a very vibrant, dynamic, young, you know, because Parliament is increasingly becoming younger and younger. So she's managing young people, very well educated. Many of them are right from the university. From university, they hit Parliament with a lot of aspirations. So to be able to steer this house for 1.5 years now, I think she has done so well.
Big contribution she's made. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. We'll go for a break. We'll be back to stay tuned.
Uganda Communications Commission is currently conducting nationwide mandatory SIM card registration. Register your SIM card in a few easy steps. Visit your telecom operator's customer care center or any other designated registration center and provide your phone number, a copy of a valid ID or any other valid ID with accompanying photograph such as a passport, driver's permit, voter's card or a letter from your LC. Information on your physical address or residence will also be required. SIM card registration protects mobile phone users from incidences of fraud, incitement, terrorism, and hate messages, among others. Please note that SIM card registration is mandatory, and those who fail to register risk having their SIM cards deactivated. All information shall remain confidential. Let's make communication safe. Register your SIM card today.
So I'm chilling at home with my crew. The boys are waiting to watch the game on the telly, but the chicks want to go to the beach. So how do we play it? A glance across the room. Eye contact is made. A plan is hatched. Pete will get some sand. Lots of it. Jeff will take care of the deco, Tim the entertainment, and I the clubs. And so we bring the beach to the apartment. If we can't go to the beach, we bring the beach to us. It's just how we do.
It's not about where you're at. It's the difference you bring. Get a fresh take on things. Club is brewed longer for easier drinking. Brewed slower for great taste. Club, tastefully different. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18.
Bank of Uganda informs the public that from 30th March 2013, the all series banknotes will no longer be legal tender and therefore will be removed from circulation. The all series banknotes are those printed before the year 2010 and include the 10,000 shillings Chogam commemorative note. Please note the following dates. The old banknotes may be used until 30th March 2013, after which they will not be acceptable for transactions. The public then may exchange their old banknotes at any commercial bank up to 30th May 2013. From May 2013 to 31st December 2013, only Bank of Uganda offices countrywide will exchange the old banknotes. Please note that no fees will be charged throughout the exercise until it ends in December 2013. For further inquiries, call us on 0414-258441 or email us on info@bou.or.ug.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight is affirmative action still relevant in empowering women in Uganda. Our guest tonight, Hon Sylivia Namabidde, Mityana District Woman Mp, also chairperson of the Network-Uganda Women, ministers and parliamentarians. She's also chairperson of the Committee on Education. Mr. Stephen Langa on the line. He's executive director of the Family Life Network. Ms. Perry Aritua, executive director, Women Democracy Network, Uganda chapter. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Mr. Langa, hello. Yes, I mean, you're saying we will abuse this affirmative action. We were thinking of having a woman president. Now you're taking us backwards. You think women look down on men when they're empowered? Why do you say things like those? Stretch it out to 1 year girls, another year boys, briefly.
I think when we do one, we should not forget the other thing. We just need to put the historical neglect of women in context. So let's say, okay, women, we do now represent them. We do know that they can also do the work and so on. And for women, I can say,
before we go out of this place. Dr. Perry, are women getting the confidence they are supposed to? When you give them these iPads, can they tweet on day one?
Two things. I wanted to first respond a bit to what Mr. Langa said about when a woman leaves the door, she should be able to compete. Affirmative action is about giving people opportunity. If you do not give this woman or girl, the opportunity to go to school, to access the different privileges that she has not been able to access, like her, let's say, her brother, it's very difficult for her to walk out of that door and compete at the same footing as her brother who has had those opportunities. And then, of course, they're just like in a classroom. When you send a message, some people may misinterpret it, So at times, when you listen to the debate on affirmative action, for us who have worked a lot in this area, you start feeling like maybe people are distorting the message, and that's why the area of review becomes important, to say how far have we actually...
How should we review it?
One of the things that WDG, which I said is comprised of 5 women organizations, is doing, we have just done a rapid assessment of the women councils, women councillors in 50 districts in this country. We are doing an assessment to find out what their capacity is, because yes, we have numbers, but can we move beyond those numbers? And one of the things we found out was that, one, the turnover for the councillors is very high, so you find their performance in council is affected by very many factors of capacity, low self-esteem, You know, so when you do the grassroots research, then you start realizing we have actually not arrived. We still have a lot of work to do. That's why for anyone to speak about affirmative, it's important that we do our research, we have real facts, so that when we are making contributions, we are able to direct our discussion towards tangible alternatives. Like, what do we do? This is a problem. And that's why WGG from the research is saying, look, we are going to strengthen the work that we have been doing in terms of capacity building, teaching them how to make ordinances, you know, working together with our partners in Parliament to ensure that when the women MPs have time, they can go to those districts, provide the expertise that some of them have, you know, so that we have tangible results from those areas which are still lacking. So the results are a bit shocking in that you think we have arrived, then you go back and you say we haven't. And then the other thing I also wanted to comment about, especially with regard to affirmative action in terms of political representation. Women councillors represent more than one sub-county, and there's a similarity with the district women representatives. They represent a whole district, and yet they're given, for the women MPs, they're given the same fuel, you know, to go to the district and perform at their counterparts who may be representing maybe 8 sub-counties maximally. Because I just did a small analysis of Aritua district, for instance. The woman MP represents almost 30 sub-counties. Now, the next person who represents the second largest number of sub-counties at the directly elected level represents 8 sub-counties.
And they get the same amount of fuel.
Same amount of fuel, and yet they're expected to do a wonderful job. So are we giving and taking away with another hand?
Honorable Ssinabulya, Mr. Stephen Langa says you will have been over-empowered. Now you're talking about, you yourself were saying, married to rape, a man rapes his wife who he married one day with a lot of love. He should go to jail for 5 years. After that, he comes back home. They start from where they stopped.
Thank you very much. Let me start with what Mr. Lang said.
Married to rape, 5 years in jail.
I'll talk about that, but let me first begin. I'll talk about what he said. He talked about that in affirmative action brings hate. Women begin hating men, women demean men, women put men down. And he also said that affirmative action is often emphasizing one gender against the other. I want to say that affirmative action is not a war tool. It's not a weapon. This is not a war between men and women. It is an intervention to trying to address an imbalance, trying to address historical injustices deeper embedded in culture, in society, which led to one sex, one gender, the female gender, to remain behind. So, and I'm glad he said that today girls are doing well, are doing better than boys, and they are articulate and their confidence. I'm glad he's realizing this. So you can imagine how much we had lost. I really stop and think, how where would the world be if women had not left been left behind? Actually, the late Thomas Sankara, when he was talking about the Burkina Faso revolution, he said that the revolution cannot be complete without the genuine emancipation of women. And I think that is the same philosophy which NRM picked up. That there's no you can leave the women behind and you think that you can transform a society. So we're talking about giving women equal opportunities. It's not, and when you have a family and you're giving your girls and boys equal opportunities to go to school, equal opportunities to go to stand for elections, equal opportunities in a relationship, in a home, to decide when to have children, how many children to have, to decide how to spend your resources. When well managed, there is no way women can put men down.
Well, my girls I go to better schools than the boys. Talk to us about marital rape.
So, yes, marital rape. I want to inform this society.
You want men
that married to? No. It's not that. But we must be agreeing, first of all, in principle, that marital rape does exist. It may be difficult to prove. Actually, today, many people have called me and have asked me, how could you say that there's marital rape? But I told them, okay, this is I was just telling people what is in the bill anyway. The bill talks about marital rape, but it's not in that bill, because this bill came as a result of a consultative process, law reviews. Since by the way, this bill has the gist of this bill have been in place since 1963, 65, when I was even barely a year old.
I wasn't born.
The need for that bill had been there, the drafts were there. It came and went and came and went. So, but it came out of the consultative process. You know, a law tries to address society's challenges. It doesn't come out of the blue. People discuss as if women sit somewhere and men and say, I think now let us have a law. These men rape us. No. You know, you first look at what is happening in society and say, okay, how can you address it? If everything was right and proper, we don't have laws. If men and women contracted marriages and they lived happily ever after, as we take our vows in church, we don't have to make laws. But
and they do divorcing every evening.
Yeah, people are divorcing, marriages are breaking up, men are taking people's girls and cohabiting with them for so many years, and after some time they abandon them.
So when they make that mistake, 5 years in jail.
No, on marital rape.
Yes.
The law, the current bill in Parliament, shows grounds where you can, which you can term marital rape. Of course, rape is forceful sex, and I know that in relationship, people sometimes a spouse may not be prepared to offer that conjugal right.
Right.
It's not because it's a right. If your partner is
might be suspended for a day.
when you do it forcefully, which can lead to injury.
Let's talk about the first. The really unacceptable one. A woman in her menstrual cycle, a woman who has given birth, a woman who just goes on operation, a woman who's sick.
If I suspect my husband to be HIV positive,
you can see
I've seen him walking out with a
girl from the neighborhood.
Yes, woman is HIV positive, and say, a moment, please. Tonight, no. And then you forcefully do it. That is right.
That's rape.
So, that is very difficult to prove. But in those circumstances, it can be proven 5 years medically.
Yeah. Let's see how the listeners. This is Petra. You know, our number is 0414 348 111 031 226 0390 031 226 1390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. However, some people think that the original beneficiaries forsook the average woman a long time ago. You got caught up high up there, you weren't the common woman. Do you still mind about those women?
I think we do mind a lot about common women.
I know parents here teaching them how to hold a tablet and to tweet to their neighbors.
We care for the ordinary woman, we legislate for the ordinary woman, we represent the ordinary woman, we speak for the ordinary woman, because even these laws we make in Parliament and the policies and the budgets are all meant to benefit the ordinary woman. We're not living up there in a spaceless space. No, majority of women who are elected, even in the deliberations in Parliament, even in the kind of work they do in those constituencies, they do serve the interests of the ordinary woman. Of course, we cannot be in the villages every day, but at least women go back to their constituencies and train women and provide services for women. For women, so women keep in touch.
Let's hear again from Mr. Stephen Langa, who I believe is still Mr. Langa. Yes, talk to us about his marriage and divorce bill. Is it a good thing that we're hearing coming from Parliament?
Which is
interesting thing is we're doing some research.
Okay, let's continue.
We're doing some research on
will be sorted out at the
Marriage Act in Kenya. And there are quite a number of similarities. That's why I get quite surprised when people keep saying this law is a women's agenda. First of all, a bill is introduced by the executive, and there must be research before you introduce a bill.
This one was tabled by Honorable Kidu Makowe when he was still Attorney General.
Yes, and a bill is put in place, as Honorable already said. It's there to address the problems in society. It looks for the
one of the problems is property sharing at the moment.
Oh yes, and it's important because when we look at the section, for instance, on matrimonial property, we have had a number of cases where property has been taken away from married women after their husbands die.
Let's talk about marital property. Men die, they don't declare someone. When they're listing the plots, they leave out the ones in Chwatule. Talk to us. What has been happening?
Well, and you know, a lot of research, as Sylvia already said, has been done on this bill. There's a lot of disinheritance, you know, and in the end you find children suffering because maybe the widow is chased away and she's denied of property. And then of course the bill also addresses issues to do with property in cohabitation, you know, because as we all know, when you are cohabiting, there is actually no legal relationship.
Do you support cohabitation?
But I think it's important for people to get married because there are benefits. You know, when you get married, you have legal rights. But when you
have a contract,
you know,
your commitment.
There is the hand, and love is supposed to be the basis, you know, of this contract. But you see, when something seems not to be working, that's when the law then comes in to say, you know, here there's a problem. So we need to help the people in society who are facing a problem as a result of this anomaly.
Whether we have a bill or whether we don't have that law in place, marriages break down. Have been breaking down, and they will continue to break down, and people will continue to quarrel over property. So it's not this bill, which is this bill is not going to intensify the breakdown of marriages. No, you know, marriages are found on love. The foundation of marriage is love and trust.
Yes.
Actually, watching people debate, what is interesting is in Parliament that people were debating according to their experiences. You find one who is polygamous, strongly coming out strongly to support cohabitation, because you know he's married in one woman, then he's cohabiting with another one. So that person
lives far from the capital, it's only 40 kilometers.
Yes. This bill, I don't think is going to intensify what is already there, but it's meant to address problems that occur in case marriages break down. It's about, because it came out as a result of the unequal treatment of men and women in the event of marriages breaking down.
Let's talk about customary marriages.
Yes.
Outline those. What exactly was that?
Customary marriage, you know, this bill recognizes different types of marriage.
The Mohammedan culture.
The Mohammedan marriage is not part of this law. They're going to have a separate bill. But this one talks about the Christian marriages, like the Catholic, the Anglicans. It talks about the civil marriages, those which are conducted by the district, the cow. It talks about the Hindu marriages. It also talks about the customary marriages. Now, the Christian marriages, the civil marriages, and the Hindu marriages, these are monogamous marriages. It's one woman. And the customary marriage can either be monogamous, we're going to have that amendment, or polygamous. Actually, so they're potentially monogamous up to
7?
The one would wish.
Even 12.
Even 100. So you choose which one to go. The problem is that people contract Christian marriages or civil marriages and go on.
The jumpers in the neighborhood.
So this bill talks about the different types of marriages and regulates if you're in this marriage, then you can't go in this marriage. If you are, those are some of the things which the bill talks about. But I want to tell the public that this bill does not seek to destroy marriages. It just comes in where the marriages are going to be dissolved. How do you share the proceeds of these marriages? Actually, it even this bill is talking about divorce. It doesn't just say that you get married to a man or a woman, and after 2 months or 1 month you divorce. No, it specifies a particular period. At least it should be 2 years. It should be two years, and then it also talks about what kind of property should be shared. Not every property. This bill provides for separate property. As a woman, I can acquire my own property separate from the man, and even the man is free to acquire his property separate from the woman.
How do you draw the line?
That is what is termed as matrimonial property. These are that property where you ordinarily reside and you derive a living as which maintains the family. Is what is termed as marital property. It could be a home, or it could be homes. Some people, some couples have more than one home, and maybe a garden, and maybe a business where they derive the family income. But in addition to that, each couple, each spouse is free to go ahead and procure and other property and make other property.
Well, but if they live together, what's the difference?
Well, that is
my woman marries a man. She's a stay-at-home. She's a housewife.
Yes,
actually, she supports the man.
Actually,
the suits and so on. And says it's not matrimonial.
That's an issue which many of us have been talking about, because we know that
and then the good ones.
Sometimes it's very difficult. I think that was my contribution in Parliament on the bill. Sometimes it's very difficult to state what contribution I have made as a woman.
You could be a housewife.
Yes, talk about the women. Because women's work is undervalued. Women's work is it's unpaid. It's called domestic work. So it's about childbearing, it's about growing food, it's about being pregnant, and as you're pregnant, the man is busy making property. And this is my personal property. I made it alone. So that is something which I think we need to discuss further, because the discussion is still ongoing in Parliament. We need to discuss further and say, how can, we have to say, how can a woman prove that she made a contribution to this property?
Give us your own thoughts on that, as we teach women to treat.
No, two things is we actually have a divorce act, and it seems most people don't even realize that. People keep saying this bill is going to break down, but we have laws on marriage and divorce in this country. What the marriage and divorce bill is doing is to say where are the gaps. How can we ensure that the areas which we are not addressed in the Divorce Act are actually addressed in this marriage and divorce bill. And as Sylvia has already said, we should not be like ostriches and bury our heads in the sand. And divorce is a reality in this country and in many countries around the world. The important thing is, how do we protect, men and women who somehow have failed to live together after, having been married for a number of years.
How do you draw the line between matrimonial property and properties that a man got on his own or a woman got on their own?
The bill actually defines what matrimonial property is. I don't know whether it should be read verbatim, but Sylvia mentioned in a number of areas that
so we should. It's delineated. It's clearly stated.
It's clearly stated.
Because it talks about the matrimonial home.
Yes.
It talks about household property in the matrimonial home.
Yes.
It talks about any other property, either immovable or movable, acquired before or during the subsistence of a marriage, deemed to be matrimonial property by express agreement. Meaning you must agree that this property which I'm bringing in is actually going to be part of matrimonial.
So when a man buys the house and doesn't declare it, the woman has to claim it.
But the only challenge with that, some of us are going to challenge that, because when I got married to my husband in church, he said I surrender to you everything, all my earthly possessions. Now that was an oral agreement. So when we're talking about express agreement, that express agreement
taking away
either written
Thank you very much, Honorable Sylivia Namabidde, Mityana District Woman Mp, Chairperson of the Network of African Women Ministers and Parliamentarians, also Chairperson of the Committee on Education. Thank you for coming, Spectrum, Madam, tonight. Mr. Stephen Langa, Executive Director of the Family Life Network, joined us on the line. And Ms. Perry Aritua, Executive Director of Women Democracy Network, Uganda Chapter, teaching women to teach in different parts of the country. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Spectrum will be back tomorrow. We apologize for the lines you couldn't get in tonight. They will be working tomorrow, and then you'll be able to call in.
There are those who sit around waiting for things to happen.